On October 21st, a Russian Su-27 fighter jet came within only 10 feet of a U.S. aircraft over the Black Sea. But the real story is not the close approach itself. The real story is the calm, precise, and deeply unsettling American response. The crew did not answer with direct force. They did not escalate the moment in the sky. Instead, invisible systems came online. A digital firewall activated, and advanced technology began turning the Russian pilots' overconfidence into a technical problem unfolding in real time. So how can a reconnaissance aircraft stand its ground against one of the world's most agile fighter jets, using nothing but discipline, data, and control? The Black Sea is far more than a stretch of water. It is a strategic crossroads where international shipping routes, vital to trillions of dollars in global trade, meet Russia's expanding geopolitical pressure. On that day, a U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon patrol aircraft was carrying out a routine mission at 10,000 feet. Its advanced sensors were continuously recording detailed activity across the sea and the surrounding airspace. The crew was not there to provoke anyone. They were there to observe, protect international routes, and help maintain freedom of navigation. But that day, Russia chose to test the security balance in the region, not through diplomacy, but through a sudden and highly aggressive move from the sky. The routine patrol changed in an instant. Poseidon's advanced sensor network detected a fast-moving target, closing in at remarkable speed. It was a Sukhoi Su-27 flanker, one of the most recognizable symbols of Russian air power, launched from a coastal airbase in Crimea. The Russian aircraft accelerated sharply. Its path was direct, uncompromising, and aimed straight toward the American aircraft. It was moving at more than 500 nautical miles per hour. There was no warning, no attempt to communicate on the standard emergency frequency, no sign of professional coordination. It was a clear and deliberate breach of international aviation norms. Then the Su-27 crossed the flight path of the P-8A at a distance of only 10 feet. It was a high-risk maneuver carried out with striking precision. But the situation intensified even further. The Russian pilot then performed an aggressive barrel roll directly in front of the American aircraft. This was not simply unprofessional. It created a serious physical risk. The fighter's fuselage came within 25 feet of the P-8A's fuselage, producing a powerful air disturbance that could have destabilized the larger and less maneuverable reconnaissance aircraft. For a plane like the Poseidon, even a sudden disruption in airflow can become a critical problem. A powerful vortex from a nearby fighter jet could shake the aircraft, disrupt its stability, and force the crew to fight for control. Inside the P-8A, the data kept streaming across the tactical displays. Every reading confirmed the same conclusion. This was not a random incident. The Su-27's speed, its angle of approach, and its carefully chosen trajectory were designed to create maximum psychological and visual pressure. On the tactical display inside the Poseidon's command center, the red icon representing the Russian fighter flashed like a warning signal, closing in with every second. Its risk vector showed an approach speed of 600 knots. The distance was shrinking fast, 500 meters. The estimated time to the next intercept point was only 30 seconds. Through the infrared system, the American pilot watched the flanker closing in, yet his heart rate stayed steady. It was the result of thousands of hours of training, built for exactly this kind of moment, when discipline matters more than emotion, and a provocation must be cooled down before it can spiral out of control. Inside the aircraft's secure internal communication system, one question became impossible to ignore. Was this simply the mistake of an impulsive and inexperienced pilot, or was it a calculated test from Moscow, a deliberate attempt to measure American resolve and rules of engagement? The answer would shape the next few minutes, and possibly the balance of the entire region. Russia's first move soon became clear. By using basic electronic concealment tactics, they tried to disguise the Su-27's real flight path. The goal was simple: surprise the American crew, pressure them into changing course, and make it look as if Russia had taken control of the airspace. That was their first major miscalculation. They believed they were facing one isolated aircraft. They were wrong. Nearby, at high altitude, a U.S. military E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft was already on patrol and linked directly with the P-8A. The E-3 airborne warning and control system carries radar capable of tracking low-flying aircraft at distances of up to 250 miles, while higher altitude aircraft can be detected even farther away. Within moments, data from both platforms moved through a secure network, combining every sensor into one unified intelligence picture. Instead of seeing one narrow angle, the American crew now had a wide operational view of the entire situation. The Su-27's exact position and projected path had already been calculated while it was still 50 nautical miles away. Russia's element of surprise disappeared before it ever truly existed. With full situational awareness, the American crew stayed calm and acted with precision. They directed the P-8A's high-resolution camera to record the entire encounter, transforming Russia's risky maneuver from a brief moment in the sky into lasting, verifiable evidence for the international community. While Russia relied on an old game of electronic hide-and-seek, the United States was operating inside a far more advanced information network. Every movement was detected, analyzed, and understood before it could fully develop. But the pressure in the sky did not end there. The first Su-27 was not alone. On the AWACS screen, 2 more Russian aircraft appeared, this time the more advanced Su-30 models, capable of reaching Mach 2.35. They were detected taking off from the area near Sevastopol. Their equipment and formation suggested a clear intention: use numbers and speed to surround the P-8A and increase pressure from multiple directions. But this tactic revealed a serious weakness. The Russian aircraft depended on older radar systems and had limited ability to share real-time information with one another. Each pilot was largely operating with a separate picture of the situation. In practice, they were not functioning as one coordinated formation. They were 3 individual aircraft trying to act like a single unit. The American response came immediately. From the aircraft carrier, USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, positioned 200 nautical miles away, 2 F/A-18E Super Hornets were launched. The Super Hornets cut through the sky at Mach 1.2. Their advanced AESA radars could scan the full circle environment around them at the same time, giving the pilots a complete view of the airspace. The technological gap was overwhelming. The Super Hornets carried AIM-120D air-to-air systems with an engagement range of more than 100 nautical miles, far beyond the roughly 50 nautical miles associated with Russia's best comparable systems. But the real advantage was not only range, it was connection. The American pilots were linked to the same data network as the P-8A and the AWACS aircraft. That meant the Super Hornet pilots could see the Su-27 through data collected by other platforms without activating their own radar and revealing their position. At that point, this was no longer a contest between individual pilots. It had become a contest between isolated pressure tactics and a fully connected defense network. And in that contest, Russia's attempt to intimidate had already reached a strategic dead end. But the situation was unfolding not only in the sky. Beneath the aerial encounter, the P-8A's sonar systems identified another contact, a Russian Kilo-class submarine. Its main limitation came from its diesel-electric propulsion system. To recharge the large batteries used for quiet underwater movement, the submarine had to run its diesel engines. Those engines create vibration and acoustic signatures that modern sonar systems can detect from long distances. Even worse, when operating in certain conditions, the submarine must rise closer to the surface and use its snorkel to take in air. That action can reveal its position and produce even more acoustic noise. The hidden observer was no longer hidden. The response was fast and precise. An MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, deployed from a nearby Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, arrived in the area. Flying at low altitude, it began releasing a network of radioacoustic buoys, known as sonobuoys, which are used to track underwater movement. Each device was small, only about 5 inches in diameter and 3 feet long. But together they formed a wide acoustic net around the submarine's position. The Russian commander may have believed he was watching from the shadows. Instead, he had become the one being watched. His submarine's location was being followed, mapped, and contained. No direct engagement took place, but the message was unmistakable. The United States had awareness under the water just as it had awareness in the sky. The hidden pressure point had been exposed, and its value was sharply reduced. Then came the most intense part of the encounter, the electronic phase. The lead Su-27 activated its targeting radar and briefly locked onto the P-8A. In military aviation, this is one of the clearest signals of pressure. It suggests that the situation could move into a more dangerous stage at any moment. At the same time, the flanker began sending out basic electronic interference, an attempt to disrupt the American aircraft's sensors with digital noise. It was the final move, meant to create uncertainty and force the American crew to step back. Instead, it produced the opposite result. The moment the Russian radar signal reached the P-8A, its next-generation ALQ-249 electronic protection system responded. It did more than simply filter out the incoming interference. The system analyzed the signal, reshaped the response, and sent back a carefully controlled wave of electronic pressure toward the source. Within seconds, the P-8A's electronic protection suite created a dense wall of digital noise, designed to overwhelm the Russian aircraft's sensors without escalating the encounter into open conflict. The result was immediate. On the Russian pilot's radar screen, the single P-8A target disappeared. In its place, the display filled with hundreds of false returns. His view of the airspace, the one tool he depended on to understand the situation, suddenly became unreliable. Strong electronic interference! The pilot's voice broke through the static. Target lock lost. Screen filled with false contacts, requesting instructions. His situational awareness had collapsed. The clear picture he thought he had was gone. At the same time, his communication system began to break apart under heavy interference. Contact with the other aircraft became unstable, leaving him isolated in the sky, unable to tell which signals were real and which were only digital reflections. With no reliable way to confirm his target, the Russian pilot had only one reasonable option. He had to disengage and pull away. But as the Su-27 pilot tried to regain control of the situation and prepare for another approach, the final layer of the American response appeared. A new contact suddenly emerged on his radar display, positioned perfectly at a distance of only 50 nautical miles. But this was not a standard fighter aircraft. Its radar signature was unlike anything he had been trained to handle in that moment. It was a B-2 Spirit stealth aircraft. It had flown quietly from a base in England and had remained over the wider Black Sea region, unseen until the exact moment its presence needed to be known. Its appearance was not meant to begin a confrontation. It was meant to deliver a message. The United States had understood the full picture from the beginning. The airspace had been monitored, the movements had been tracked, and every layer of pressure had already been anticipated. Then, from a safe distance of 80 nautical miles, a pilot in an F/A-18E Super Hornet received new instructions. An AIM-120D was released in a controlled demonstration. It was not used as a destructive strike. It was a signal, a warning written across the sky. The projectile cut forward at high speed, leaving a bright trail behind it. It passed near the nose of the lead Su-27 at a distance of roughly 200 feet, close enough for the Russian pilot to see and understand exactly what had just happened. There was no shouting over the radio, no dramatic speech, no need for direct words. The silent presence of the stealth aircraft, combined with the precision of the warning pass, delivered the message clearly enough. Turn away now. For the Russian pilot, the situation had changed completely. He was no longer pressuring a lone reconnaissance aircraft. He was facing a connected network of aircraft, sensors, and systems that had already mapped his every move. Continuing the approach was no longer a show of confidence. It had become an unacceptable risk that could pull the entire region into a much larger crisis. The pilot turned the Su-27 away and abandoned the approach. Over the radio, he reported back to base in an urgent but controlled tone. His radar and targeting systems, he said, had malfunctioned after the electronic interference. It was the perfect explanation. It allowed him to step back without admitting the obvious. He had been outmatched not by one aircraft, but by an entire system, technologically, tactically, and psychologically. However, the American mission was not finished yet. The F/A-18 Super Hornets did not immediately return to the aircraft carrier. Instead, they formed a calm and controlled air security perimeter around the P-8A, flying several additional patrol circles with steady precision. On board the AWACS aircraft, pilots and officers kept their eyes fixed on the radar screens, following the signals of the departing Russian aircraft until they became small dots, and then disappeared from the scan range completely. After the encounter, the success of the American approach was clear. It was a carefully balanced combination of information superiority, advanced coordination, and the steady professionalism of the crews involved. Russia had relied on pressure, speed, and intimidation. But that approach lost its impact the moment it faced a better connected and more disciplined system. The Russian aircraft turned away. Later, the Russian government issued a statement describing the confrontation as a routine training exercise, an expected attempt to control the public narrative. But the US Department of Defense soon released high-resolution video and radar data from the P-8A. What had been intended as a private display of pressure became a public lesson watched around the world. Every link in Russia's multi-domain pressure chain had been identified, tracked, and neutralized through discipline and technology. The final warning pass became the unmistakable exclamation point. For Russia, it was a costly lesson in the limits of intimidation when facing technological and tactical superiority. The image of that warning trail cutting across the sky would remain a powerful reminder of what happened that day. But for the US Navy, and for the men and women assigned to protect the global commons, it was simply another day of professional duty. It was a quiet demonstration of a lasting truth. The seas, the skies above them, and the rules that protect them are best defended by those who combine technology, discipline, and the judgment to use both with precision. If you found this video interesting, leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you do not miss more defense stories like this one. Write in the comments which system you want analyzed next: the F-35, advanced high-speed missile technology, or another real-world encounter. See you in the next video.